Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let me tell you why you should never use a keyboard cover or camera cover with your MacBook. MacMost is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 2,000 supporters. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There, you can read more about it, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. Now, if you have a MacBook Air or MacBook Pro, you may be tempted to get a keyboard cover for it to protect the keys, to keep them clean and protect them from spills. But this is something you should definitely not do. Here's what some of these keyboard covers look like. They're made of very thin, flexible material that fits perfectly over the keyboard, and they protect the keyboard. Of course, any dirt that gets on them, you could just remove it and the keyboard underneath is perfectly clean. These things are so thin, in fact, that it seems that you could just close the MacBook and it keeps the keyboard cover right there. So it's just always on. And they're extremely cheap and often come for free when you buy other products as a little add-on or gift. But you should definitely never use these. Apple recommends against it, and the internet is filled with stories of people that have broken their expensive MacBooks because they've used these. The problem is that MacBooks have very little space between the keyboard and the screen when you close it. Remember, MacBooks are extremely thin, not just the MacBook Air, but the MacBook Pro as well. And one of the ways they can be extremely thin is not having a lot of wasted space when you close it between the screen and keyboard. So when you add a layer of material, even if it seems to be super thin, it's actually putting pressure between the keyboard and the screen. Now, this may not break your MacBook the first time you close it, but that tiny little bit of pressure can add up over time. Or there could just be a time when the keyboard cover is a little bit off of where it's supposed to be and it puts on extra pressure on the screen. And this is what we usually see happening. It's the screen that breaks, not the keyboard. The screen either develops flaws in it or some of the circuitry behind it fails. And this could happen right away, or it could take months or even years. And in fact, many people can use a keyboard cover like this the entire time they have the MacBook and not have a problem, but that doesn't mean they're not taking a risk the entire time. The proper way to use these, and some of them even put this warning in there, is to remove it each time you close your MacBook. But this is going to be very difficult to remember to do 100% at the time. And even if you do, it's probably going to limit how you use your MacBook. You're probably not going to open and close it as frequently as you would if you didn't have the cover there. Plus, of course, then you have to find a way to put the keyboard cover into something and transport it along with your MacBook and then put it back on every time you use it. It's just not a very practical thing to use these things and remove them each time you close the MacBook. And yes, in addition to lots of horror stories online of people that have broken their MacBook screens, you're going to find some stories of people that say that they've used these and have never had any problem. So it's basically a risk factor. Using one doesn't guarantee your screen's going to break, but it's definitely not worth the risk. As a matter of fact, Apple is very specific in recommending against this. You can see on this page here, they simply say just never close your MacBook with the cover on. Now, the reason people want these is to prevent spills from getting onto the keyboard and keeping the keyboard clean. For preventing spills, you've just got to have the rule where you just can't have open liquids near the keyboard. Either keep them away or use water bottles that won't spill if they accidentally tip over. To keep your keyboard clean, you should follow Apple's recommendation, which is basically to shake it and to spray it with compressed air. On this same page, it says it's okay to use disinfectant wipes. But the one thing that you'll find Apple's pretty consistent about is never to spray any kind of liquid directly on any surface, whether it's the screen or the keyboard. Always put it on the cloth and then use the cloth to wipe things down. I'd say if you have trouble keeping your keyboard clean, think about cleaning it frequently. In other words, using maybe a good, dry, fine cloth and wiping it every day with that dry cloth instead of just waiting for it to build up. And of course, a really good strategy is to keep your hands clean. If you keep your hands clean, then the keyboard will stay clean. For most people, this probably isn't an issue. If you work in a dirty environment like a mechanic shop or art studio or something like that, then you may just need to get in the habit of washing your hands more often before using the keyboard. This, of course, is a little more work on your part, but it's a lot less risky than any other strategy of keeping your keyboard clean. If you're in a really dirty environment, a factory or shop or something like that, then you may want to consider getting a cheap external Bluetooth or USB keyboard and using that when you're there, and let that keyboard get dirty, knowing that if you clean it and break it, it's cheap to replace. And then don't touch the MacBook's keyboard until you're in a cleaner environment. Now let's talk about camera covers. Camera covers are things that cover the MacBook's camera. The idea is privacy. Nobody can use the camera to spy on you when it's covered. And these things are really thin and they just kind of fit over there, and you could slide it back and forth to cover the camera, uncover the camera. But the thing is, these have the same risk, if not more, than the keyboard cover. They put a little pressure between the top of the screen where the camera is and the keyboard or trackpad, really, that's that part of the bottom of the MacBook. And they could break the screen very easily. In fact, this same page here at Apple's site is talking about avoiding camera covers as well. And Apple has this additional page warning you about ever closing your MacBook with a camera cover on. The truth is, you don't need a camera cover. That green light next to your camera is hardwired into it, and the camera can't be used without that green light being on. In addition, your Mac also will indicate if the camera is being used in the menu bar. Movies and TV shows have made us a little paranoid about people spying on us using the camera in our MacBook. But in real life, this simply isn't the case. Now, another thing people sometimes do is they put a cloth or sheet between the keyboard and the screen when they close their MacBook. In other words, they're purposely putting it there only when they close the screen. And the idea here is to prevent the little marks that the keys can leave on the screen. But think about it. If the keyboard is that close that it's leaving little marks on the screen, imagine adding a little bit of extra material. How much extra pressure is going to be put on that screen? Definitely don't do this. Those marks are usually left there because you close the MacBook and you're kind of holding it tightly and pressing the screen against the keyboard. So try to be careful when carrying it, but also you can just wipe those marks off the screen. Apple has instructions on that same page about cleaning your products as to how to clean the screen. They recommend water only, applied just to dampen a lint-free cloth, and then using that to clean the screen. And if you do have those marks and you think they're annoying, think of how much more annoying it's going to be if your screen breaks completely. So the basic rule is never put anything in your MacBook when you close it. A keyboard cover or a camera cover has to be removed 100% of the time every time you close it. So it's just not worth the risk to use them at all. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.